All right, hey everyone. I wanted to do a quick video on Skinwalker Ranch and an interesting movie. I've watched it twice now, and I recently watched it again, and some of the information in there I didn't quite catch the first time, but the second time around it was just more interesting to me, and I wanted to talk about some of that stuff and a few other things here. Okay, first, the movie is called Hunt for the Skinwalker. Okay, a guy named Jeremy Corbell is the one who put the film together. And let me show you what he looks like, okay? This is Jeremy Corbell. You guys may have seen him if you watch Joe Rogan's show. He's been on Joe Rogan with Bob Lazar. And he follows a lot of supernatural stuff, a lot of UFO stuff, this, that, and the other, okay? Don't trust the guy, but he's the guy that did the video. There's some good information in that movie. But this guy, once again, I don't trust this dude. He's got some strange tattoos, a lot of strange connections, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Okay, now he did this movie called Hunt for the Skinwalker. It's free on Hulu right now. If you've got Hulu, you can watch this movie for free. He did this film with George Knapp's help. This is George Knapp here. I believe he's on the radio. A lot of people are familiar with him. Another guy with a lot of questionable connections. But anyways, George Knapp wrote a book called Hunt for the Skinwalker with a scientist. This has been some years back, okay? But basically, Corbell's film is about the evidence that George Knapp collected. George Knapp and Corbell are both in the film. They talk to a lot of scientists about what went on at this place called Skinwalker Ranch that was formerly known as Sherman Ranch. Now, in the movie, they call them the Gormans because they're trying to hide their identity, but it is technically Terry Sherman and his wife Gwen that owned the ranch at the time when most of the evidence that George Knapp collected was there. A billionaire named Robert Bigelow bought the property off of the Shermans. The Shermans were seeing UFOs, shadow people, what some people thought was skinwalkers, pretty crazy stuff. So Bigelow, this billionaire, who the guy owns space stations, he owns Bigelow Aerospace. He's got plenty of money. Anyways, so when Bigelow buys this place, he invites George Knapp and some scientists there, and they run all kinds of tests, and it's profound what happens there. I'm not going to get into all that, but here's what I think is important. Let me show you a pic of the film real quick. This is the IMDb for it. The name of the film's Hunt for Skinwalker. I would recommend watching it. Not that everything in it's true, but it's very interesting to see some of the stuff that went on and some of the documentation they have. And here's the book. This is George Knapp's book, Hunt for Skinwalker, that he wrote with Colm Kelleher. Okay. And, okay. Here's what's interesting, though. When all this stuff began for Terry and Gwen Sherman, they're known as the Gormans in the film. It started with loud footsteps and noises outside and shadow people peeking into the house through the windows, okay? Then, after like the stalking stage where these shadow people are looking in through the windows and making all this noise outside, the shadow people started coming into the home. Now, I don't know if there was any type of sleep paralysis or spiritual attacks, but they didn't cover any of that in the film, and I have not read the book, but how it began was very interesting. And if you know me, you follow my Facebook group, if you follow this channel long enough, you'll know that I believe that all this is linked. UFO activity, shadow people, I believe they're all fallen entities, basically fallen angel activity and demonic activity, Nephilim and all that. I'll get into that a little bit more later. But anyways, what started out as shadow people looking through the windows and making noise outside, the shadow people come in the house, they start seeing them in the house, stuff starts going missing. And that basically graduates into UFOs, orb-shaped lights outside. They're seeing the nuts and bolts UFOs, like the traditional UFOs you've seen in movies and in other pictures. Countless people have seen those. They got photos. That stuff's all over the internet. And again, all this has taken place at what was basically nicknamed Skinwalker Ranch, but it was Sherman Ranch before the Shermans sold this property to Bigelow. Okay, Bigelow sold the property to this guy. Okay. This is Brandon Fugel. Now, this guy is doing a series right now on the History Channel, and I started to watch it. It seemed a little ignorant. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to watch it or not, but this is a guy who owns the property right now. Okay. But what's interesting is that Robert Bigelow, the billionaire, is still, this is it here. He owns Bigelow Aerospace, and there's a division of Bigelow Aerospace that's called BASS. And that stands for Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies. They are still accepting government funding to do tests at the Skinwalker Ranch. Okay, so they're still active there. Our tax dollars are paying for this. Another division and BASS is linked to ATIP. Now, if you follow the whole disclosure thing, you know that ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and this guy here, they're the ones that released the footage that started in like 2017 that was showing the military's footage of tracking UFOs in the sky. Okay, these departments are working together. Okay, so ATIP and BASS are working together. And they're getting our tax money to do this, to help investigate this phenomenon. So, pretty crazy, folks. So, like, from a Christian perspective, I got to thinking, I'm like, man, you know, this is, how do we explain this? Okay? In my opinion, it's possible this is the continuation of, like, the fallen angel breeding program mentioned in Genesis 6:4. Okay? If you're not familiar with that, I'll read it for you real quick. Okay? Genesis 6:1-4. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, those are the fallen angels, folks, saw the daughters of men that they were fair. They're good looking. They liked they liked looking at them. And they took them wives of all which they chose. Now that's interesting because that implies that they took it by force. Okay. They took them wives, all of which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Okay. There were giants in the earth in those days. Okay, the NIV has it correctly interpreted here. It's Nephilim. Okay. That is a half angel, half human hybrid. Though they were the giants of old, you know, they're like Hercules, like the giant that David slew, Goliath. He would have been a Nephilim. He's literally a half angel, half human hybrid, folks. Okay? And there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children unto them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Once again, the sources of your legends like Hercules, Thor, all that stuff is going to come from these beings, folks. Okay? Now, okay, that's why God sent the flood. He puts Noah and his family, his 3 sons, and his wife and their wives, and the animals that he wanted to save in the ark, okay? And then the flood comes and destroys everything that is on the earth, right? Because even the animals, the angels were experimenting on the animals and humankind. So the Bible says all flesh on the earth was corrupt. That's man and animal, okay? So then the question becomes, if this stuff is happening now, like what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch, and people are seeing alien-type beings, and, you know, the reports of that are countless. Just get on the internet and look it up. We have to ask ourselves, if that's linked to Genesis 6:4, then how did this start again? Because, okay, in 2 Peter 2:4, Peter says, if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, that word's Tartarus, that's the lowest hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved until judgment. Okay, if the angels that did this are locked up in Tartarus right now, then who's doing it now, and why is God allowing it to go on? And we know that it'll happen in the end time because of what Daniel tells us here, okay? Daniel 2, prophecy about the end times. Daniel 2:43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. So if you're going to mingle yourself with the seed of men, okay, then you have to be something other than a man. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with miry clay. So what the prophecy that Daniel is talking about, what he's talking about here, folks, is there is a being other than a man that is mingling with the seed of men, okay? And that's basically what I believe this UFO activity is, because a lot of people that have been abducted, they're taking sperm, they're running tests. There's women who say they've had false pregnancies. They've had pregnancies removed out of them by aliens in space, while they're on spacecraft, and then they're dropped back off. They experience missing time. A lot of that stuff goes on. So, okay, here's my point, though. If this happened in Genesis 6:4, okay, and these angels the angels that actually did this got judged, and they're in Tartarus right now, according to 2 Peter 2:4, then why is it going on right now? Okay, here's why I think that is. Okay, once again, in Genesis 6 and verse 2, the angels that came down, they took them wives of all which they chose. They forced themselves on them, folks. And if you follow my group very much at all, you'll know when I'm talking about spiritual warfare and stuff, I talk a lot about how these demonic entities are making deals with people, folks. They still make deals. If you want to break into the whole UFO stuff, you need to research the Greta Treaty that some people say that President Eisenhower literally made with aliens, to where they could come down and experiment on mankind, and they traded that for technology. Okay, so the agreement was allegedly Eisenhower made this agreement with alien beings, folks. They had a meeting and they agreed that, hey, if you'll give us advanced technology, then we'll let you experiment on mankind. So the angels that are doing that now are not locked in the chains because they made deals. They did not force it onto mankind. That is exactly why I believe it goes on today. There's a lot of other theories out there. I'm not going to get into all that. I really don't believe that. I think it's about deal making. So, in summation, the angels came down the first time. They did whatever they wanted. Okay, and they violated man's free will. Not even God really violates man's free will, folks. He makes covenants with us. God made a covenant with Abraham. God makes deals with us, and there's a lot of, if you do this, I'll do this stuff in the Bible. Well, as long as these demonic entities and these fallen angels are willing to make deals and mankind agrees to it, God's letting it go on till the end of time. That's exactly what I think is going on. And I just wanted to put together a quick video and show you guys this stuff, and recommend that you take a look at this film, okay? Once again, I don't like Jeremy Corbell, really. He's kind of a weird little guy, and I know he's got some questionable connections. I don't care for George Knapp, but the film is worth watching because of the evidence presented. The scientists talk about their experiences. If you follow my group very much at all, you know that I've talked about how I believe demonic entities may be like a type of plasma, because there are so many reports about how they kind of linger in like a 18-inch diameter cloud, and that people have seen them like that. There's actually a report that they go over, the scientists talk about this. I think it's George Knapp that brings it up. There was a scientist on location at Skinwalker Ranch that had one of these clouds of mist that a lot of people have seen in sleep paralysis. It came and it invaded his space and set around his head, and they said in the video the guy freaks out. Now, I don't know if that's covered more in the book or not. They didn't cover a whole lot on it. And they also talk about how the scientists that come to Skinwalker Ranch during this time, these demonic entities followed them home, okay? And then would start interacting with their family and spiritually harassing them away from home. And once again, this is relevant because this is the kind of stuff we run into and we talk about in my Facebook group all the time, folks. And I wanted to bring it up, and I think it's the way that this film puts together the UFO, all the UFO stuff with spiritual warfare. I'm left with only one conclusion, folks. These are fallen demonic entities, and they are literally cutting deals with mankind and experimenting on our seed, experimenting with mankind's seed. They're probably still making hybrids. A lot of people say they do it underground. That's another interesting thing. In this film, Hunt for Skinwalker, the Shermans heard machinery underneath their feet that would shake the ground. They said it sounded like a train going through a tunnel, or an iron worker facility, like an iron plant, because it was making so much mechanical noise and shaking the ground. Another thing you might want to take a look at is what Phil Schneider had to say about what they call DUMBs, which is basically stands for Deep Underground Military Base. They're called DUMBs, D-U-M-B. That's another thing. There might be a literal military dumb base, underneath that location. We don't know. But, again, I'll probably do another video on it later. But I just wanted to go ahead and put this together quickly and let everybody know that, I think this movie's worth watching. A lot of the evidence that they present in this film and the stuff that they say that happens to a lot of you all in my group, and I think it's worth a listen. If you have any questions or anything about it, folks, shoot me an email, and or join the group. The link will be in the description. And until next time, have a good one.